I'm Jennifer Blevin-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today, I'm just going to do a brief video going over the 3 different CPT code categories. I am not sure if you're aware that there's 3 different categories of CPT codes, but there are. And a lot of people sometimes get confused about them. They get, unsure of how to use them. And like I said, many people don't even know that there's 3 different categories. So we're just going to do a high-level overview. If you want to learn more about the differences, I encourage you to do your own research, just like I encourage for all my videos. I'm just putting awareness out there, trying to give just some basic background to build a foundation so that you can do your own diligence and really start looking into these things a little bit further. All right, so Category 1 codes. These are CPT 1 codes or HCPCS 1 codes. You'll be hearing people say HCPCS or CPT codes. We use them interchangeably in the revenue cycle. But Cat 1 codes of CPT codes are the most common codes. It's the largest amount of CPT codes out there, and they're going to be the most common services and procedures that providers use to bill out their services that they render to patients, okay? This is going to be that really thick book that you probably get every year or every other year to be able to reference, and they're all categorized into different categories. I think there's like probably even more than 5 or 6, but there's a bunch of different CPT categories, and those books are broken into them, and then you can see the different codes within those categories and their descriptions and notations and things like that. So there's those Category 1 PICS 1 codes. Again, most common, the ones that you put on your fee schedules that you bill out for, the ones that you're constantly monitoring to see if they're getting paid or rejected or denied, those are your CPT 1s. CPT 2 codes. CPT 2 codes or HCPCS 2 codes are just supporting codes. They are helping with monitoring your performance for macro MIPS. They are the ones that you get credit for through Medicare. They're the ones that are like checking obesity, like BMI levels, systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure. I mean, there's so many of them. But again, you don't get paid for these ones. These are strictly supporting performance codes. These are so that you get credit for your macro MIPS performance, telling the insurance companies you are monitoring those specific macro MIP benchmarks that you've chosen for your practice to be monitoring and doing, right? So you don't even need to bill them out for non-Medicare patients, but a lot of people do just because they don't want their providers to get out of the habit of adding them, right? Because it's really hard a lot of times for providers to keep that in their mind. They're trying to do so many things with the patient, with patient care, which is the way it should be. And a lot of them are like, you know what, just put them on everything because we don't want you to have to try to remember another thing of looking at their insurance. Is it a Medicare? Is it a Medicare Advantage plan? Whatever, and trying to remember to add those codes. Most insurances accept them at a zero bill charge fee. So like I said, it's just for supporting documentation of your performance in the practice and how the individual providers are doing. So those are fairly new, probably within the last decade or so, right? Because of the whole macro MIPS and performance stuff. If you're participating in macro MIPS, you want to make sure that you're putting these CPT2 codes on your claims. If you haven't been, you need to start, okay? And there's a lot more to it, but again, bringing awareness, do your own due diligence and research. And then you have the Category 3 codes. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see them used a lot in my day-to-day in things that I do with practices, but they are out there. And I had to write down what Category 3 codes were because I wanted to make sure I was giving you the correct and full information of what they're for. I do know they are temporary CPT codes. They are not permanent, and they are codes used to report emerging and experimental services and procedures that they're hoping to develop permanent CPT-1 codes for. So basically, it's a tracking system for the entities that come together and do all of the changes to CPT codes, where they remove them, they edit them, they add more every year, twice a year. And this is their way of being able to see how much they're being used and all of that fun tracking information that they need in order to see if it's worth adding them as a permanent code, which would move them to a CPT-1 category code. Providers do get paid for these. I don't want you to think it's like a category 2 where it's a zero charge. They do get paid for these. Medicare does cover most of these. But the key to this is making sure that there is proper and thorough documentation supporting the billing of these codes. So if you're going to be billing category 3 codes, I really encourage you, which I encourage everybody, to have certified coders in their practice helping them scrubbing claims. But you really want to rely on the experts in this, making sure they guide you on what's needed to support the documentation for certain codes, given your specialty, especially, and making sure that you're putting all the information you need and finding out if you need to send those chart notes with the claim at the time of submission, or if they come back and say, we're not covering this right now until you send medical records, and that's your prompt to send that documentation. But nonetheless, the documentation should be completed when the patient is seen, and it shouldn't be like an addendum to add the information once it's asked for. Like this documentation should be clean, thorough, detailed, and done at the time of service when you see the patient, so that it's ready to go if they do ask for that supporting documentation. You can send it right away. Okay. So category 1 codes are your most common procedural service codes that get billed out with charge fees, and everybody uses them. Category 2 are your tracking supporting codes that get billed out with a $0 fee, but they help with your performance for macro MIPS qualifications. And category 3 are the ones that are experimental temporary codes for things that are kind of trending up and coming, for the powers that be that do the tracking to see if it's worth in the future adding a permanent CPT code, which would move it to a CPT-1 code. And you do get to bill these out. Medicare will cover most of them, but it's all needing supporting documentation of why it was billed out and how you performed everything in detail to show the medical necessity. If you have any questions or comments about this, please leave that in the comments below. Smash the thumbs up button if today's video was helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and please share this with any of your colleagues whom you feel this content would benefit. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.